The three-act structure. It is the standard for modern storytelling, laying the foundation for a multitude of mediums. Stretched out between 2 hours or compressed into 15 seconds, it's hard to find a story that doesn't use it. Beginning, middle, and end. As pattern-seeking creatures, we like to see the use of this familiar structure, and to know that a story that is started will be finished. When a TV show is canceled or a chapter ends on a cliffhanger, we want to find out what happens and see how it resolves. And if a plot thread goes unfinished, we feel uneasy, it lingers in our minds. A story that leaves itself unresolved is a scary one. So what if there was a story that did this but on purpose? The Tatami Galaxy does this, but on purpose. It centers around Watashi. He's a blissfully naive character who constantly overthinks everything in his life and wants to live a rose-colored campus life. To pursue this, he joins a club in his first year of college, hoping to make 100 friends, find the perfect girl, and live a fulfilled life, whatever that means. Through a series of misfortune and bad decisions, he finds himself in a deeper and deeper hole as life gets worse for him. In the first episode, for example, he's long con-deceived by his trickster friend Ozu into believing a god of matchmaking is setting him up with a girl. But right when the story reaches its climax, everything stops. Watashi begins to monologue about how much better his life would have been if he had just chosen a different club at the beginning of college. And the episode ends. This is a prime example of a cliffhanger, cutting off right as the climax hits, ready to hook you in for one more episode. But as you may expect, this is not exactly a cliffhanger. Time instead rewinds, fulfilling his wish, taking him back to his first year of college where he first joins a club. This is the crux of the entire series, the entire point it's all centered around, these alternate decisions. Each episode explores the life of Watashi as he chooses different clubs, all taking place in separate timelines, meaning previous episodes are never resolved or revisited. It's jarring to not have a resolution for 10 episodes on end. But why does it do this? I believe there are two reasons, but the first one, we see the story from Watashi's perspective.
オズは私と同学年である。夜道で会えば10人中8人は妖怪と間違え、2人は妖怪と納得する。もし彼と出会わなければきっと私の魂はもっと清らかだったであろう。
His narration, his opinions on other characters, his flashbacks, imagery in his mind, it all centers around him. We see it from his point of view. So when he gives up, we see that from his point of view. He doesn't want to go on, so the story doesn't go on. We instead focus on what he wanted to see. What would have happened if he chose a different club? And what's unique about this concept is that it's episodic, as opposed to a serialization. There is no carryover from one episode to the next, and Watashi doesn't have any gradual growth because of it. We see him make the same mistakes over and over again. It's very similar to the episodic picaresque novels from hundreds of years ago, where the Picaro enters a new position in life, faces bad luck or makes a mistake, and is then expelled from his position, only to repeat the cycle next chapter with no character growth. However, there's something that Tatami Galaxy has that makes it stray from this sort of episodic format that's popularized. It's true that the characters can't grow due to the time loop, but the viewer can. What they know can change. Watashi's club decision changes in every episode, but the other characters remain exactly the same. This may not seem like a big deal, but since Watashi's jumping all over the place, we get to learn about all of these characters, their intersecting relationships, what they have going on in their lives, their personalities, seeing them in different lights every single episode. Watching episode 1 for the first time, Ozu's master seems like he actually could be a god of matchmaking. There's nothing that proves otherwise, there's no context. But on a rewatch, it becomes easier to see how Ozu himself was behind the plan. Initially, we share Watashi's point of view, but we quickly pass him in knowledge as we learn more about his friends than he knows. This show has the unique quality of becoming less episodic the more episodes a viewer has seen. There are details that go underexplained or just plain unexplained, only for it to show up in another episode and clear things up. All these additional details hold no impact on the readability of an episode, but watching an episode blindly versus watching it after having finished the series is a completely different experience. All of this could be known to Watashi as well, if he even cared to ask his friends or pay attention, but instead he's more concerned with looking into his own future to achieve what is unachievable and looking into his past to change what is unchangeable. That's what this unusual format ultimately means. It is episodic because he keeps looking into his past, and it ends in the third act because his life has strayed so far from what he thinks is perfect. Now, I'm going to be giving some light spoiler territory, spoiler alert, things will change, and I heavily recommend that you watch this show as I think it's great, obviously. In the second to last episode, Watashi lives a reality where he didn't join a club and spent his 2 years in his room. The blame he placed on the people around him made him think that not meeting them would solve his problems. However, one day he wakes up in an endless labyrinth of copies of his own room, unable to leave. As he traverses the rooms, looking for an exit, he finds things he didn't put there, minor changes from his room. Then he realizes these rooms aren't copies at all, they belong to different versions of himself, including all of the versions that we've seen from these various episodes. This is the point the show has been building up to, as the knowledge the viewer has is now shared with Watashi. He sees all the activities he was a part of. He sees all the people who touched him in all of his various timelines.
それにしてもどの部屋の住人もいかにも楽しげに見える。決してバラ色とまではいかないまでもそれぞれの四畳半がそれぞれに彩りに溢れているように見える。
He got into trouble, sure, and he didn't live his idealized life, but he didn't waste those years. He spent that time with people who really cared about him, and he just was too blind to see it. This mindset change is like a switch being flipped. Everything the show did is now turned on its head. After 10 long, unresolved episodes, you'd expect it to end rewinding for Watashi to make another decision and fix his mistakes. But it doesn't. Watashi knows what he did wrong, and yet he doesn't want to go back. He doesn't wish he lived any other life. For the first time, Watashi and the viewer move forward.
私のキャンパスライフは楽しいものになったであろう。オズはたった一人の私の親友らしかった。
In this final episode, the show goes from being episodic to a serialization. It includes character growth, and it lets the resolution play out. Instead of spending time in his mind overthinking, he takes action towards the things he can actually control, and spend time with the people around him. This is the second reason the episodes ended prematurely. After being deprived of a resolution for that long, finally receiving one is that much more impactful. It's the whiplash, a complete perspective change, and now that he has grown, the way the story is told grows as well. The past doesn't need to be changed, it needs to be learned from. What you do doesn't determine your happiness, it's the outlook on life. He didn't give himself a chance to see these possibilities play out, but finally choosing to make his life a serialization instead of an episodic one led him to reaching a resolution he was happy with.